Wife will pick it up, and she hear it all. I heard your whole conversation. Most times I was talking to myself when that occurred.
I can help you with that.
But I have the best conversations with myself. I seem to really work out. Some people do it, they wait for a therapist to come in, and they call it parts therapy, right? But when you actually activate it externally, then you're crazy. Why is that so? So my wife says, yeah, I heard you had a full-on conversation, Leon. You're right. I was wrong. And I'll try not to do it that way to offend you next time. I was like, man, it saved me from having a conversation with her, right? Only me. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Leon Sankofa. I have 3 degrees in behavior science. I became a hypnotist around 2016 or 17. Now, why did I become a hypnotist? Everyone always has an interesting story, I think, about this journey, I believe. Some are just curious. But mine is very interesting because in my earlier life, I fell in love with a woman that I could not stand. I mean, I learned to hate her. I didn't learn to love her. I started off loving her, right? But I learned to hate her. And then I realized I was having these therapeutic sessions, and I'm looking right in my client's eye. And I was not in the room. Something that I love to do so much. And then all of a sudden, it hit me. I said, you know what? It's going too far now, because the thing I love, I'm sort of losing myself in the thing I love. But I'm excited about therapy, I'm excited about practice, I'm excited about my clients, and now I'm just kind of like, you know what I'm talking, some of you know what I'm talking about. We all have those days, right? But I was having a series of those days, and I said, wait a minute. And now I don't like myself in this relationship. And that was like the catalyst to leave. So I left this woman that I didn't like, and then after I left her, I grieved. It's really weird, like, why am I grieving over a woman I don't even like? In fact, not only do I not like her, I can't stand her. And I wasn't masking it, I literally could not stand her, right? But unfortunately, I struggled for almost technically 4 years, grieving, really. 2 of the years, after the second year, I could kind of date. I mean, I was dating, but my mind went in the dating game. So after 2 of the years, I could really date without, feeling funky about it, right? Losing sleep at night. I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? Every morning. Damn, 4 o'clock again, right? I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the interesting thing about where I lived is I lived in a primarily white community. And there was a track across the street near a high school, and at 4 o'clock in the morning in Virginia, it's still dark out, and I was like, man, I ain't going out there running. Catch me running around track, I get arrested. But, that's just the way the culture, man. That's all real, right? And so I would sit around the house until the sun came up. Then I would go and run the track and try to get the energy off me. But anyway, after about 4 years, I realized, looking back, that I was truly clear after 4 years, because I was no longer thinking about if there's an event, is she going to be there, or it's my family and friends who know her gonna be there. And the idea was trying to decide who I wanted to deal with, if I felt like dealing with them. And I want to clearly say that it took me about four clear years of like, no, I ain't going there because she's there. Or I'm going there because she's there and I feel like dealing with her or her family. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I think we've all been through that. But one day I went to a comedy hypnotist show. And the guy name was Medicine Hat. Only he was a gangster, man. He was a gangster hypnotist. Have you seen Medicine Hat? Yeah, he was a gangster hypnotist. He was up there, looked like he was angry. He did everything, man. He did orgasms on stage, man. He was Medicine Hat. You ever heard Medicine Hat? Oh man, yeah. He set the standard. He was going heck off, but I was like, wait a minute. I did not know hypnosis could work this way, right? So I knew about it. And I said, so then it dawned on me. I said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me I could have got this chick out of my head like in a day? And let me tell you, I met some of the most kindest, wonderful, beautiful women I could have dated. I could have married, but my head wasn't in the right space. And I miss all of that because guess what? I did not meet a hypnotist or a therapist who was smart enough to know to say, hey, Leon, there are some ways to remove this thing. You don't have to do this forever. Grief, the lie that they tell us about grief is that grief has to endure and you have to let it work its way out. That's not true. Some cultures, when we talk about grief in some of our cultures, we believe that the more you grieve, the more you love. That works opposite. So that's almost telling me that if you lost somebody, I need to grieve. So my subconscious mind is saying grieve more. You know, grieve more because you love it. I love it, so I grieve. So anyway, that's how I got into hypnosis. And so I said, when I saw that guy, I said, I'm gonna find the best way I can to learn to master that because no one should have long suffering. And that's how I got into hypnosis, and that's what got me here today. I later met Rich Guzzi later on when I was, right after I had got a hypnosis training. I met him at a show and I just walked up to him and said, hey man, I'm a hypnotist, you know? And he said, wow, why don't you do it on stage? And I said, man, you think I'm not trying to put the comedian stuff there? I said, man, I run a practice. I run a serious practice and I don't know about people to think I'm some type of buffoon, right? He said, Leon, what better way to do it than let someone with your credentials, you get up stage and show them that it works. And so I followed Rich around for about 2 years. I went to all his shows. We had conversations before and after shows. I've seen his best shows. I've seen his worst shows. And his worst shows are better than most people's best shows, by the way. But I've seen him when he settled down to like one person. I'm thinking, Rich, why'd you remove all those people off stage? And you had one person who said, Leon, they were duds. They were dead in the woods. He said, their energy will be rubbing off on this person's energy. And so he said, you got to get them off the stage. So anyway, I learned all of that. And so that kind of got me here. And so, I'm so thankful that I had this journey. I don't want to say I'm thankful for the pain that got me here, but I do want to say my mission is to not have long suffering. And I think it's not good if my doctor had 2 medicines and one took 6 months to cure and the other one could be cured in 2 days. And I found that he knew, not that he could even prescribe it, but the fact that he knew I could be cured in 2 days. And he did not tell me about that. Why would he allow me to have long enduring suffrage? Likewise for therapists. If they know, why would they allow me to have long suffrage? That I don't know. So anyway, everybody good? Mm-hmm. So anyway, the EVI model is an evolution of me doing therapy for years and trying to understand my clients. And it's called emotional value integration, simply because the idea of the design is for you to use it as a tool to implement it within your toolcase with whatever you have, if it's EMDR, whatever strategies you have. The conclusion of its use is ultimately to do an induction to really clear it out, and I'll talk about that. Can someone tell me what the time is?
It's 9:10.
Okay, I need to track the time. Okay. So emotional value integration is based on the idea that when a lot of men were coming into my office, some of them were not connecting emotionally. I'll ask them how they feel about the situation, what would they like to feel. They would tell me what they think. They would. Then I realized at the time I figured it out. Their thinking is really a description of their values, right? Appreciation, respect. You get that? Yeah, so their thinking was all about their values. And so I said, wait a minute, they've been describing their emotions the whole time. But they've been doing it through a value base. Because all values lead to, guess what? An emotion. In fact, in most cases, values are created as the protection of the emotion. You get what I'm saying? So if I say, you know what? I'm real big on trust, right? So not necessarily that I had a pain point from that, but what it does say is, you know what? I never want to experience the hurt, you know what I'm saying, of being let down. So now value is my big, you get what I'm saying? So now value is my big thing, you know. well, you know, Leon, he's big on trust. What am I covering? I'm potentially covering the value of some form of hurt and pain. But it sounds good, right, if I say you're big on trust. It sounds good if my issue is about appreciation, right? Even though maybe, or acceptance, you know, maybe it's appreciation, but really my issue is with acceptance. So if I'm struggling with acceptance, right, I'm not going to tell you I'm struggling with acceptance, but I tell you what happens. Values exist all over the place. So once you have a particular value, one is like we have all values and there's core values, and then there's what I call controlling values. So core values of trust and appreciation sounds good on the face value, right? But when it reaches to a point where it becomes a controlling value, meaning I'm limiting people having access to me, I'm limiting living a full life, because guess what? I'm so afraid to step beyond the boundaries of so-called trust because I can't, you know, I don't know him, I don't trust him. Well, listen to this. Some of the values become culturally. So my mother's fears of not trusting people, my mother's fears my mother's values, our parental values, become imposed upon us. But those values, perhaps, they may have gotten from some form of personal fears. And we all know trauma goes back to the DNA, they've been traced back to 5 years. They go back 5 years. And I think I was talking to Sean the other day when I had mentioned that in the woman, a girl, at birth she has all the eggs that she needs to do all the creation she needs to do. Is that correct, Mom?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's freaking amazing, man. That they have all they need, man, to procreate, and it's done the day they come out of the womb. That's fascinating. But here's what's a little bit more fascinating. It's that you, let me use a woman for example, you, because I want to use the eggs, right? That you were with your mother when she was in her mother's womb.
You inceptioning me?
What'd you say?
Are you inceptioning me?
No. But you get the point. If you were with your mother, because she had you in her eggs.
Yeah.
If she had eggs in her when she was having birth, that means you were with your mother when she was in her mother's womb.
Wow.
So this whole idea of DNA, you know, we think DNA is static, but DNA changes all the time. And so whatever trauma, whatever your mother was born with, whatever trauma that has occurred, more or less, it alters the DNA. So that's a simple way of understanding how DNA is altered. But I'm just saying that to make a point that you can get your values culturally. And it doesn't mean they came by way of strength. It may have been they came by way of some form of fear. Right? Does that make sense? We can go deeper today, but that's not why I'm here today. So let us begin a little bit about, because that's how emotions are. Oh, let me finish this setup. So it exists everywhere. If tell me your name again.
Matt.
If Matt and I was in a restaurant, right, and we were in the restaurant, we were eating, and somehow Matt noticed something. So let's just say my issue is trust. And Matt's issue, my value, my strongest core value is trust. Believe in trust. I only deal with people that can trust, and if I can't trust you, I won't deal with you. Let's say here's appreciation, right? We're in a restaurant, right? What is he gonna notice first when it comes to appreciation?
If you were on time.
Huh?
If you were on time.
If I was on time, if the
How you treat the staff?
how I treat the staff, right. He's gonna notice all of that because guess what he's doing? His system is wired and designed to detect that, to avoid what? Remember?
Danger.
Huh?
Danger.
I'm sorry.
Danger.
Danger, right. And for him, danger would be the fear of not being accepted. Right? So in marriage, when I'm doing marriage counseling, right, I'm hearing people argue all the time over over the experiences in the relationship, right? And it really boils down to like, oh, that's your strongest value. And to the man, yeah, that's right, that's my value. That's right. That's right. I feel like I should be appreciated, and the woman, he doesn't want me with, so her thing is acceptance. Another woman may not have that core issue, right? So what that means is she paired with him, they may not have the same level of conflict because guess what? Her issue, her issue, for example, is not about acceptance. Or his issue is not about a trust. His issue may be about appreciation. Or any of the other 50 values. You got what I'm saying? So core values are good on the surface. But and we can talk that in a very positive way. In fact, when you think about personalities, to me they're really they look more or less like the landmine is? I'm a soldier too. You know what a landmine is? Okay, it's like landmine. So if I'm dating you, what I'm gonna say to you is like, well, I don't like people I can't trust. That's a landmine. Because what happens when you step on that landmine? I'm a loser, right? I'm a loser, and I told you, you see that? Well, I go, and I really prefer, I don't like Italian food, let's say, for example. And then you take me to an Italian restaurant. What I'm doing is I'm kindly labeling all my landmines, right? Because I'm telling you, if you love me, guess what you won't do? You won't step on them, and you will protect me. And oftentimes a woman and a man will be screaming out because you stepped on a landmine that they told you about earlier. It's like and you're supposed to protect me, right? But remember, in my world, in my mindset, in the EVI model, that relates to some value, which relates to some emotion they're trying to protect, right? So it's a core value, they're good values. Oh yeah, that's great. You like to have people you can trust. I don't really know what that means, right? It sounds good, right? But then I don't realize it's really a controlling value, meaning it causes limitations. That means I can't go to my friend's house who has wives because she don't trust his wife. It's a controlling value. That's when it becomes a problem. So anyway, with the EVI model, this thing, I can play with this all day long. It boils down to understanding the value. And there are about 50 so of them, right, or more. But figuring out, okay, what are the values? Sometimes you can learn your client by one. They can tell you what the emotion is. But the real work is how the value, how that plays out in their value system, in their values. Other folks, who come in, well, I don't know. I just think that, I don't know what it is. You take his values, and if he can't get to his emotions, you don't have to press him for it, right? If he says trust is my thing, right? You already know something. You already know something. You can begin to do the work in most cases, without even doing it. Okay, so that's that. But in the EVI model, I do something called I start with the stages of competence. Have anyone heard of the stages of competence? It's really neat value. I'm really happy to share that with you. The stages. I can't wipe my face with that. The stages of competence, right? The 4 stages of competence. The first stage is it's called unconscious incompetence, right? The second stage, that means you don't know what you don't know. And I really educate my client. Neuroscience says that therapy works best when you educate the client, make him aware, right? So the first stage is unconscious incompetence. He doesn't know what he doesn't know, right? How can you argue with someone who doesn't know what they don't know? How do you argue with a client, try to convince a client of something that they don't know that they don't know? You got this advanced education in hypnosis and all this in education. They don't know, right? So, and the second stage is conscious incompetence. That means, I'm aware that I don't know. The third stage is conscious competence. And what conscious competence means, that means I'm aware and I'm a work in progress, right? And the fourth stage is unconscious competence. Sounds weird a bit, and it can be a little screwy. But here it is. Let me explain it to you in a quicker way. Think of a baby, right? A newborn baby, right? They don't know nothing. And they don't know nothing, right? These babies, they laugh, they giggle, they scream and cry for what they want because it's your job. You've been providing me this for 9 months, right? This doesn't stop now. And then one day, you know, the baby's crawling around and he or she is laughing. And then one day, so that's unconscious incompetence, right? The baby doesn't know, they don't know nothing, right? Then one day you say, Lisa, you gotta walk. And you know what I'm saying? You stand Lisa up and she's like, So now Lisa is aware that she's incompetent. You get that? And so she walks the walls. She's reaching out for you because she doesn't feel confident to walk, right? And so what that means is she's now consciously incompetent. The baby's aware she doesn't know anything about that, right? So she's crying, and then the next level would be conscious competence. That means, you know how babies are walking, they're almost looking at their feet when they're walking. They're looking at you for emotional support to show you that I'm doing it. So that's conscious competence, right? They're consciously working on it. And the last stage is unconscious competence. Meaning, you know what? Just like you right now, you're all walking around, you never thought about you had to learn this stuff, right? So you have what's called unconscious incompetence about the way you walk. And that's the same process with learning. And sometimes, in this work, specifically therapy, psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, and anything abroad, mostly anything really, it's not just to know the framework. It's not so important just to, well, it is important, but it's not so important just to know the mechanics of how to do it. What makes you great and what makes you special is understanding the nuances of these models, right? A lot of these models really work really well, but people fail to understand the nuances. They learn the framework, oh, got it, get a certificate on the wall, right? Now, if I'd have done that with hypnosis, I never would have been on the stage knocking people out, hundreds of people out, you know, and having fun with it. You know, I would have said, I'd be in the office somewhere, I'd be putting them to sleep and praying that it had worked. You see? That's a major difference. But understanding the nuances is what makes you great. And these nuances of understanding that, you know, that there is a trail, there's a trail. And if you listen to people long enough, you'll hear their values all the time. Just listen to them. They'll tell you. They'll tell you their values. And in essence, they're also giving you the light to let you know where their emotions is with that. Now, they could have got, in true form, they could have gotten this emotional value from a positive experience and or a negative experience. They could have. If it's positive, they want to reinforce whatever it is they was getting, right? But most times, it's a result of some form of emotional distress that they want to avoid. And I've always said this: you do not know a person unless you know them emotionally. I got a book coming out called The Emotional Reset, which really talks about the 4 stages of how to understand a person emotionally, because I think a lot of us got it wrong, because you think you know me, but you know, you think you know Michael Jackson too. You think you know all these artists, right? But you may have heard about their pain, but if you didn't sit there with them, you don't know them emotionally. You don't know them. You just don't. But you have to know that. So anyway, where are we time?
It's almost 9:30.
All right, okay, we're doing good. Okay, so I mentioned that we use emotion as a guide. So the client can say, I was hurt. So the client say I was hurt because of what happened or hurt when this happened. Then we look for the value. We look for how does it play out in your life? Because what tends to happen is, now check this out. Even if you resolve the emotional issue, the emotional childhood trauma that caused it, they have this framework, this system that's built into their system that's going to keep repeating itself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it's already in the framework. And it's like, but I was always stubborn. You know, my mama was stubborn. I was always stubborn. So even if you address the emotional trauma, the emotional pain, and you did not address the values to try to get them to understand that this is linked to XYZ value, to restore that value from a controlling value to a value that brings to a core value, you know, that brings on, I mean, what's a better way to say it? That brings them into the light, right? Because if trust is a value for mine, you know, I should be able to say, oh, well, I like this guy, I want to trust him, and it shouldn't be, I'm not going to deal with him because I don't know if I can trust him, right? That's a lot different, or you know, and it goes on and on and on. So, first of all, is being able to determine, do we lead from, if the client is able to address their emotions, then we find the value. If the client is speaking from the value, right, then we find the emotion. But we also want to know, like, how else does this show up in your life? And I explained to them, I said, when you have these, when you have such a strong value like this, I said, it shows up everywhere. So I had a client, and his thing was appreciation, and he was a celebrity client, by the way. He was a celebrity, and oftentimes he'll go out, you know, not trying to be recognized, but this particular day he was feeling good for himself. You know, he put on his glasses, let people know him when he went out, he saw some people, and they recognized him, and he was in his game, man. I can do this for you. You guys are great. I know. I don't know what artist he said, but he actually know. He was like, I'm gonna put y'all with them, and he doesn't have the money that he had then either, right? He said, and so he was telling me how he went out and had a great time, and I said, so you promised this band that you're gonna do all this. What's the #1 artist right now? White girl, got in a fight with Kanye.
Taylor Swift.
Right. So he knows Taylor Swift, right? So I said,
Hold on, he got into a fight with her.
yeah, you know what I mean. It's short version. You know, short version. So I'm just trying to point out that he knew Taylor Swift, right? And so he was like, yo, I know her manager, you guys are great, I'm gonna link you up. So he came back to me in therapy, and I said, he said, Leon, I went out, had a great time, I was feeling good for myself, but I knew his issue was appreciation, by the way. His father was autistic, and you know, they don't have emotion, so he's trying to get his dad to emote to him, and it doesn't happen, right? So anyway, so he's lacking in that area. So he's always doing extra now because he knows what it feels like not to have just have this level of appreciation, right, and feeling. So he was doing his thing, right? And what I said to him, I said, you mean to tell me you were out there, you had a great time, and I think, long story short, I said, so basically, you was out there trying to get your acceptance on, right? He said, damn, Leon, you're right. He said, you mean to tell me that those people were just props? You see, he saw everyone out there who, when he went out, he said they were actually props so that I can feel what I wanted to feel. You get that?
Yeah.
And there it is. And this is me working the emotional value integration model. I was working the model on him because I was showing him how it shows up. So the cure is not necessarily just hypnotizing the trauma. The cure is also the extended part is, you know, how do I deal with, where else does it show up? It shows up in your normal life. It shows up under normal circumstances. But remember, it's almost like like the landmine. Until somebody steps on my landmine, right? So I'm just advocating for that. So the other part is, so I talked about how we got values, the same thing through our parents and culture, and through pleasure or avoidance. So here's the deal. When I realized when you're able to truly get a true marking of the target, and you truly can get the client to agree on the actual target emotion, target behavior. So because that, when it comes to value, it's going to show up in there, it's going to affect their behavior. So when I'm truly able to nail down the target emotion, the results are a lot better. Plus, it's more agreeable and it's more measurable. So as I can say to you specifically, let's look at that. You're back today. How has that been? And so it's more measurable and more highly effective. Okay. the process. So after I've done all that, now let's set the process up. One of the processes I use, we've used many, but I like to set up a timeline. And I like to integrate it while I'm in conversation. Like, hey Johnny, when you think about the past, the present, and the future, how do you see that? I mean, do you see it like from left to right to left, front to back? Typically, they say from left to right. So now I have a timeline with them, and I've also begun to get into their emotions, right, and their imagination, which is where hypnosis begins, right? Transition, this way the trance state begins. So where does that stand for you? You say, and I say, well, and if I have data already that maybe something happened at 5, divorce or something happened at 5, and I say, so at 5 years old, where would that be on the timeline? Oh, right here. And how old are you now? I'm 39. And where would that be? Oh, that's right here. And now I'm trying to find a future orientation. I'm going to use this stuff later. Where would you, 45, where would 45 be? Oh, it's right here. Remember, we're in his imagination now. So the process is beginning and deepening the whole time just through conversation. So it's here. Okay, good. So the next step I do is I really educate them at some point about what anxiety is. Anxiety is a fear of something in the future negatively happening that hasn't happened. And what that really is our brain just continues to go back. It's based on patterns. It continues to go back to a single thought that we created in that moment. For example, if you told me I had to go speak in front of a crowd and it didn't go well the last time, then the thought that occurs, an emotion wired to it, I'm envisioning myself there in that moment. And then, so basically, I created that false future. And the brain is so powerful, like it's going, I think it's told it's going up. It's going from one neuron to the next at the speed of 212 miles an hour, right? Which if I was standing by a door watching a car, it'd be really quick. But think about it going from one nano nerve ending to the next. And so it is not just going in, that's it. It's like, because it's electric current, right? So it's doing all of this, right? So, but in your mind, you thought about it one time. But the operation of your brain, it's saw this thing 1,000 times, right? And so the brain has created this future that doesn't exist. And then it created an emotion based upon that. The client is the one who basically created that negative emotion. He created a negative history. And so when I showed them how anxiety works and how we can create, how the brain is only revisiting what you just told it in that moment. There's more to say about that, but I'm really just trying to get through this, so excuse me. And so then the neat part about the neat part about this EVI model is I get them to see the past and present at the same time. So one technique I use is I say I ask about them to think about something negative that happened in the past, and we talk about that briefly, right? And so, then I say, and I ask them about this, so we get that, and I get that to kind of be in their conscious mind. And then I do this rehearsal called future orientation. So I would say something like, what's your name? Tim. I would say, Tim, do you believe it's possible do you think it's possible to function in the future? Doesn't matter what you say something. What would you normally say?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. But most clients are like, right? But that's still cool because guess where I'm at? I'm still working his imagination. Is where I need him to say. So what I say is, we don't have to think far, but let's think 2 to 5 seconds into the future. And let me show you how I can get you 2 to 5 seconds in the future. You can say your name 3 times. You can count 3 to 5. Count to 5. You can do whichever you choose, and I get them to agree. And I said, I want you to say that to yourself, but I said I want you just only to think 2 seconds into the future. Y'all with me? Let's try it real quick. I want you to think of something, right? I just want you to think only 2 to 3 seconds into the future. Don't think about nothing else. Think of 2 to 3 seconds in the future. You ready? First of all, you got what it's going to be, first of all. You nailed it down, like your name 3 times. You know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3, ready. I want you right now to think 3 seconds in the future. Go. You did it? Do it again. Are you doing it? Do it again. All right, do it again. Now, stop.
as you thought 3 seconds in the future, what else came to your mind outside of you thinking 3 seconds into the future?
Nothing really.
That's the point. What about you? She'll make something up. What'd you say, Jeff? Nothing. Thinking 3 seconds into the 3 seconds in the future doesn't give you the opportunity to think in the past. It doesn't give you the opportunity to have anxiety about something that you forgot. It does not allow that. So in fact, you're only focusing on the 3 seconds to the future. Now here's where the wiring happens, right? And now what I move the client to do is this. I want you to think about that thing that we talked about a few minutes ago. And I want you to think 3 seconds in the future at the same time. That sounds weird, right?
Say that again.
I want you to think about the thing that happened. So what I do is I never name it because I don't try to live a life. But whatever we were talking about, I'll say, I want you to think about the thing that you thought about a few minutes ago in the past. And at the same time, I want you to think 3 seconds into the future. And these are my instructions, right? And so it's like, ready? I said, you ready for this? They go, yeah. I said, ready, go. 3 seconds in the future. Think about the past, 3 seconds in the future. Think about the past, 3 seconds in the future. Think about the past, 3 seconds in the future, right? And so what am I doing? I'm training the brain. I'm helping the brain rewire itself. And then I have the discussion, like, here's the discussion. Tell me about this situation. Were you able to, when you thought about the past, how was it for you? Guess what they say? You know why? Because of what happens in the first verse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot think about the present and the past at the same time. The problem is, because what you're doing is you're switching. And so in order to switch, you're really not aligning any emotion with it. So now I'm thinking about it, but I'm not thinking about it long enough to kind of let the emotion set in. So I'm so focused on trying to get 3 seconds to the future. And so there it is. And so in part, there lives the idea and possibility that you don't necessarily have to experience those negative thoughts. It can be. The point is that you do have a choice. You can choose on how to move. That you don't have to think this way all the time. That you are not your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. And that when you chose to be in the present and the future, it happened for you. And here's the thing: is to always be able to show clients levels of success. You see. So after I've done that,
So, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So if you took the example of someone craving like an addiction, how would you do that with them?
Same way. But when I work with addiction, as you know, if you're looking at the 12-step model,
Yeah.
only one step talks about the actual addiction.
Right.
So it begins about the trauma that was in their life. So I worked in treatment center a lot of years, and it's way more about the trauma that's in their life, and the addiction is the byproduct. So it would be the same thing. It was the molestation. It was any of those pieces what I would be addressing, and then the byproduct would be, likewise. What are your thoughts now about? In your case, I would say, what are your case now? What are your thoughts about use? Right? And don't be afraid to try that with use. I want you to think about a day when you were using, right? Get that in your head, just kind of lock that in. And the same process, I want you to think 3 seconds in the future. And when they realize, wow, I was thinking about using, but I wasn't thinking about using. What'd you say?
Didn't quite get there.
Right, didn't quite get there. And in the final stage is what you need as hypnotists is you want to lock it down, you want to consolidate it. Because the brain has already begun to do its rewiring, right? And now that it's done its rewiring, guess what? You want to lock it down so that it's done, it's clear, right? And when I do this model effectively with my clients, especially if there's something coming, I'm going, I'm gonna clear him. I'm gonna clear him today, and I'm not gonna clear him. I'm gonna get him today. And when it happens effectively, the rest of the days are coming in and we playing. I know we playing because he's not talking about his stress. He's not talking about his addiction. He's not talking about his pain. He's not talking about his loss or his grief, right? Now look at what I've done now. I've just explained to you how when men, mostly men, but I have a woman on my case with Nanny, she cannot connect with her emotions. And she needs that because she's surviving cancer. She got 3 kids, she raised them by herself, her husband left her, he had 3 kids too. And so it's a great value for her to disconnect from that emotion because she's dealing with a life-threatening illness, right? So I'm not gonna press her to kind of connect with her emotions. You see what I'm saying? I already know where it's at. I understand and appreciate the value of, and what she said was, where I'm from, women are raised to be strong. My mother was strong, was raised to be strong. Guess what? I don't need to take that from her, right, to be an effective therapist. Why don't I roll with that? That's a great value. But I know what's underneath that. Whether it's her mother's pain, right? But that pain is keeping her above the fray. It's keeping her at work. It's allowing her to raise her kids. And so I don't need to take that from her. But I'm still doing all the effective work with her. So any questions so far? You think you might want to try this sample out of the let go, yes.
Well, I just have a comment about the cancer lady.
Okay.
If she really connected to her emotions, she'd fall right apart. She'd be crying every day.
That's what I'm saying. It's right. That's what I'm saying. But so we have to, sometimes, I don't know if experience has taught me that, but it's kind of like, I need to let her hold that. My job was, remember what I said earlier, once I identified the value, but I also trace out where else does it show up in your life? Well, when he left me, I was like, ooh, let's let him go. Now she had cancer before they broke apart. Yes.
What was her presenting issue for coming to see you?
She was her husband had decided that he wanted to come back into the marriage. And she wasn't sure what she wanted to do. She wasn't clear on anything. She was really confused about. She was wondering, can I get over the fact that he left me for some woman that he works with? All those things. And so every time I tried to nail down what you're feeling, what's your emotion, I couldn't get it. And then one day she said, I got cancer, I'm surviving cancer. She said I had a lump. She said, what is it, a liver or something? A lung, one of the parts. She needed, and she said her husband gave her one. A transplant. She said that the doctors told her she could move up on the line if her husband would give one up. He wouldn't get hers, but it would help move her up on the line. So it actually moved her up on the line, and then the doctors came to him and said, hey, if you really don't want to, you don't have to now. He said, no, I said I was going to do it, and I'm going to do it. So he gave it up. And I'm listening to this woman, I'm thinking, wow, this man, he love you so, or he's caught up in his own controlling core values, right? to such a degree that he's making decisions based upon a value that may no longer be serving him. I'm just saying, right? But you see how it works? So can someone tell me right now, what are you understanding about what I'm saying? What is it that you understand?
I missed the last step, I think. Or you mentioned, after you do this integration of, thinking a little bit in the future and from the think they're projecting anxiety about, think about in the future and notice how the emotion is different. And then I thought...
Right. So what I said was, you've already got them unraveled and loose.
Yeah.
And remember, part of the process is to educate the client, which is, I even talked to them about the 4 stages of competence. I even talked to them about that. And then I talked to them about what anxiety is in a way that, in the layman's term. And I talked to them about that. And then, then the whole time it's a conversation for me. And the whole time I'm finding out their values and where they got their values from, the culture, the emotions. Can I tap into the emotion? Why can I tap into the emotion? Okay, maybe I'll leave that alone. Maybe I'll stick with the values because it's all leading to the same place. And because what I'm finding is, even if you relieve the values, right? Even if you relieve the trauma that caused the trauma that the value is protected, if the value is still in place, they're still in operation because it's become a part of their identity. I'm stubborn. I'm selfish. I don't trust people. I've never trusted people, right? It still becomes a controlling value. And it still can get them in trouble in terms of their social, emotional experience in the world. Did I get there? So, and then the last thing I stated was, once you did that, it's all about then using your significant method of hypnosis to really tie it down and lock it out, whatever that is. If she said, whatever he or she says that actual problem is, then you do your hypnosis to clearly address and to clear them of what that is. And with the EVI model, you can apply that to anything, attaching on the EMDR, attaching on anything that you got, but it is the understanding of how to operationalize using the emotional value and integrating it into your processes, whatever that is.
It kind of feels like micro future pacing, like that 3 seconds, right? You're going 3 seconds, no emotion attachment back to the original trauma. So you're taking this very small step to kind of erase that.
The whole.
Whereas like in hypnosis, then you would do future pacing. In the future, you will feel blah, 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 and you can take it a longer distance.
Yeah. And so what I'm suggesting is the final stage is when you actually lay that in. So we've been layering it the whole time. So in the final stage is when you actually layer it in. You're really doing the clearance, and then you check the client. Go back. I'm sorry. Before you start, you should say from 1 to 10. How do you manage? How does this emotion stress you, right? And so when you're done, you go. Let's go back 1 to 10, or whatever your measurement is. Go back and think for a second and see how it affects you, right? So the final thing is for you to drop in your hypnosis. If I was speaking towards another audience, I would be saying something else. But it's for you to drop in your hypnosis. It's highly effective, and just to clear them. And so what happens is they've been going through the whole time. And so when you finally drop it in, their clearance is way better because now so the goal is to begin to work with conscious and subconscious agreement. I think it really works best when you're able to achieve conscious and subconscious agreement. I think you can get conscious agreement, which really doesn't work effectively as long, and you can get subconscious agreement, and subconscious agreement will be achieved as hypnotists. But when you get subconscious and conscious agreement, like I'm all in, whether I know it or not, I'm all in. You have the most effect. Where are we with time?
Yeah, we're just about there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Wrap it up, Leon.
All right. I'm wrapping up. Any other questions? I really wanted to.
But how do we get involved?
Huh?
But how do we get involved? Wait, there's more.
I'm not trying to sell you. I am developing it as an actual. I do have it developed. I'm sorry, as a 20-hour training, and I don't have it to sell or to market as of yet. But I'm just trying to right now to share the joy, share the value of what I do, share the impact, and hopefully you'll go out and change and shape and provide great therapy, great work with the people that you work with. And that's what I'm here today. Not to sell you anything. I got a whole system of internet services to do that all day long.
When is that book going to be ready?
It's almost ready. I'm just not comfortable with the last 2 chapters.
I can help you with that.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'm very critical.
And I heard what a guy said the other day. He was like, "Just put it out." So thank you for that. I would appreciate if you link up with me on Instagram. It's Leon Sankofa. I'm also I'm a licensed trained therapist, and I practice between Virginia and Texas. I also do comedy hypnosis shows, which I love to do. I love to share the love and joy of hypnosis, and also the value that it brings to our community, and the value that it does in helping the people that we serve. And I almost always get a claim, by the way, when I do a hypnosis show. I can almost do a hypnosis show free, right? And in most cases, I'll outpace probably what they would have paid me. But Rich told me that earlier. He said, yeah, you can. But I'm actually able to do that, so I don't worry about that. So there's opportunities that you guys want to collect, collaborate, or anything, and I want you to know. Now here's the sales pitch that I'm trained in developing on how to develop. I run behavior-based services in my hometown, but I'm trained in putting together foster care agencies, group homes. A lot of those behavior-based agencies that creates multiple millions of dollars. And I share this over and over again all the time, and people just look at me like, but when I say, a group home in Virginia makes you about $30,000 a month, and that's not 1 month. That's 12 months, right? And if you get a sober home, for example, those spaces are able to create a lot of revenue. And so it's that kind of revenue that allows me to be untethered to an area of territory. So if you're saying, hey, Leon, let's get together in the UK, I want to do A, B, and C, I'm not tethered to that because some of the revenue I've created, I don't have to sit there and provide the service because those services requires me to hire other people to do these kinds of things. So if you're ever interested in group homes in your communities, there's like 20 different services. Many of them are Medicaid-based driven. Some people frown upon Medicaid, but it's about the multiples. You see what I'm saying? It's about the multiples. And so, for example, foster care, 20 kids in foster care, and I'm just talking about the numbers, not so much about the care, so don't think I don't love kids, but 20 kids in foster care can create approximately about $125,000 a month. And the only thing you need is essentially three case managers, because each case manager takes on 5 cases. You see, but that's 20 kids. And in the state of Texas, I was told it's not unusual for an agency to have 100 kids in foster care. But I'm trying to bring this to a group of people who I know who are ambitious. And how much more powerful would that be for example, if I said most people in foster care, most parents who provide foster care are so close to the problem that, they haven't resolved their problems. This is why the kids are having trouble. How much more powerful would it be if I say, for all the parents that are signed in my foster care agency, I'm going to do no smoking? How would it look for all the people who I'm affiliated with if I say, I'm going to do weight loss for all the parents? How would it look if I say I'm going to go ahead and relieve him of his anxiety and stress so he can be a better parent to his foster parents? That's my time. Thank you. Thanks
for the woman in the room up there.
Let me come.